All right, what's up, guys? Let's talk about another one of those progressive tropes, myths, you may call it. Let's talk about MMT. Now, in fairness, many progressives don't really talk about it that much as of yet, but given the situation that we're in fiscally, that U.S. doesn't have much any fiscal rectitude in any sort, and even the social security, all the like the benefits are already promised to like retirees and old people to this day. If you add them all up, it's like in $150 trillion. So we're not, the progressives always want to offer the voters like new different programs to entice them, whether it's welfare or free healthcare or anything like that. But at this point, we're, I mean, United States is not on a like a gold standard. It's not in a hard currency. It's a very soft currency now. But even at this softness of the currency, we're running like a plateau to the point where these stuff like Social Security and Medicare is going to be either on the chopping block or going to have to raise taxes substantially, which is that's not even a known quantity, because once you start raising taxes, well, obviously people are tax avoidant, so the higher you make the taxes, you might even get less revenue. So we're already up a paddle without a, or without, up a creek without a paddle or whatever, as is. But then how are they going to promise more and more spending, more and more welfare? Well, their solution is MMT, modern monetary theory, and basically just a plan to make the currency even softer. How would they describe it? Uh, People like economists like Warren Mosler, and it is now still like a fringe economic idea, but it's going to gain traction, and at the very end of the day, I think it's going to win in the end, because not because it's like, oh wow, it's like such a compelling economic theory. It's just that the people in power, that's eventually what they'll want to do, because people in power, they like more spending. They want to get votes. They want to get more power. Well, how do you do that? I mean, yeah, you just keep going down this economic rabbit hole, right? So MMT, modern monetary theory, their big quote unquote insight is that, well, the government that issues its own debt and is denominated in its own currency. It's not a household. Well, it's like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, the U.S. government is not a household. It's not constrained by the same kind of like rules as like balancing like a budget to a certain extent. Although economists back in the day, they understood. I mean, like you can read like economists from 100 years ago, and they'd said that the government has three options to get money: raise taxes, borrow money, and print the money, inflation or whatever. But all three of them are just different versions of taxes, because if you borrow money, well, you have to raise taxes in the future, technically, because I mean, even today with the higher interest rates, uh, interest payments on the U.S. debt is going to be higher than the military or welfare or Social Security and stuff like that. So it's like chicken's already coming home to roost. But so in a way, it's true, but they're not treading in new ground here. The most obvious retort is, well, like, aren't you going to cause inflation? They're like, oh no 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 no, we figured it out this time. I mean, I can link to a book that has over 6,000 years of, there's like a history book. It says like 6,000 years of inflation, where, or something, blah blah blah, how to not fight inflation. And it's like ancient Chinese and Romans and stuff like that. Just understand, like, once you start making more currency, well, just the prices start going up. Their big insight is that they can not have prices, not cause inflation, if they can like give money or hire people or whatever, or the government can spend money in the sectors that are underutilized. So they would give an example, like let's say if you have a bunch of NASA engineers or just like really high end engineers, well, if you keep try to hire more and more of them, there's a limited quantity and they're already in high demand, so their salary is going to go way up. They don't want that. They think that there's certain sectors of the economy, there's a bunch of people unemployed or whatever, that we can give them like some kind of like a job or like a minimal job guarantee that's with lower pay, so you don't compete with so that type of like job doesn't compete with like more middle class jobs. And which is really interesting because I don't know how or when, how they got so much confidence and cockiness that they can perfectly control this. I mean, like everything about like spending money with I mean, obviously with the U.S. government, everything's political, right? So if it, oh, and then and another thing, like, well, if we do have inflation, we have ways to deal with that, meaning like raise taxes on people. And I did even read like in the Wikipedia entry about MMT that yeah, they would do a broad-based tax, not like tax like the corporations or the 1% or the billionaires and millionaires. No, no, no. They have this idea they're going to tax everybody because like everybody has like buying power. So or everybody contributes to the buying power of the economy. So it just to me it just seems like a bunch of hubris. Like good luck just like raising taxes willy nilly, right? The people, well, corporations or rich people, they're powerful, right? They don't want their taxes to be raised. Middle class, or poor people. That's a ton of big voting block. Or poor people, that's like a very like, you know, a voting block that's very they can like other politicians can demagogue on like, oh look, these are raising taxes on the poor. So good luck changing the tax level. You can't just do that. No, it's not. It's not going to happen. Instead of like trying to jack up the taxes on the middle class and getting kicked out of office, they'd rather like, okay, screw it. We'll just let the inflation run hot. Like throw the dollar under the bus. That's already what politicians have been doing. So either raise taxes or like what like, suck liquidity out of the market. I mean, they're sure as hell not going to cut spending. Like, what are you going to give like people like basic jobs or medicine, and then all of a sudden you're going to like start cutting that spending, and then all of a sudden grandma doesn't have a medicine, or this hardworking person that was just got his life together. He's just a homeless guy that got his life out. He just went off the street, started working for the government, and the cruel government just cuts his employment. That's not going to happen. It's all that they can somehow like it, that they could somehow micromanage the economy, which is ridiculous. I mean, clearly all these decisions are going to be political, and they're going to be hamstrung. So they'll just ending up like printing money out of nowhere. I mean, and then once you go down that road, I mean, yes, I understand the United States has a lot of leeway because it's the world reserve currency, of course, but they also recommend this for like Australia, Japan, UK, any country, like that. But it's like it's kind of funky. It's like you don't. How come they don't say Venezuela or Argentina, like those countries that had like a ton of historical hyperinflation, and they correct their currencies? Well, nobody trusts those countries to denominate the debt in their own, currency. But like, I wonder why, because they were doing MMT stuff, and now the countries that treated their currency more like harder or like more asset based or whatever, or like more prudent. Well, those are the type of countries that creditors do trust and buy their bonds. And so now these people want to say like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll just start doing the third world stuff, and even if they could, if some magical power they could hypothetically, which totally can't, they could like figure out a way not to cause inflation. It's in a way you're taking resources, you're competing with the free market, right? Like Maybe some people are unemployed because, hey, they have an outdated skill, and then they need to figure out a new skill, right? Learn a new skill, or like they like some companies go bankrupt. Well, maybe you should have gone bankrupt because you're not providing goods and services that the customers want. Or people's tastes have changed and stuff like that. So like being unemployed, going bankrupt, all that stuff. It's like a that's why capitalism and free markets work so well, because it's like there's a lot of like this creative destruction, and we have they're trying to like solve that or stop it. So we're gonna have a bunch of people with like outdated skills that are no good for people, or not good for the market, not good for society. They're gonna keep propping them up by just like printing money and handing it out. Yeah, it's a bunch of hubris. Um, by the way, like that lady Stephanie Kelton, that's like a big proponent of MMT, and I I can't believe it. This is really funny because I remember after COVID, I think the government paid people to. Damn it! I said the c word. I don't want to say that stuff on YouTube. But after the virus or the pandemic or whatever, right? Um, the government printed like 15 trillion or something like that for COVID relief, um, just to pay people not to work and stuff like that, or so people just won't completely erupt in riots, and predictably it caused a shit ton of inflation, and which really, I mean, people who own stocks and bonds, the rich people, like landlords, I mean, like all the rents went up. That's great. I mean, their mortgage payments stayed the same, so like all the asset prices. So the people that got really hurt were the people at the lower tier, the lower rung. They would, and then somebody would like try to retort and come back from this saying like, oh well, look, the wages have gone up too, blah blah blah. Like the average median wage of the American worker. It's like, well, not everybody. Yeah, there are winners and losers. Nobody makes the average like median wage of America, right? Everybody's got their own situation. There's a bunch of people that had the job, and maybe they're too insecure, or they have problems. Their family, like they only have like one like factory that they know how to, like one factory job that they know how to do or whatever, right? So they're just people at the lower rungs of the ladder, economic rungs. They just got, their buying power went down, their standard of living went down, right? And I predictably causes like, all that money printing caused a lot of inflation. And then I thought like, wow, this is kind of great. I mean, this is horrible for people, but I was kind of thinking like, man, maybe this is great because this MMT theory is going to be so discredited, right? No, I was wrong. They said, for some reason, I thought they flipped it around, gaslighting and saying, whoa, we told you so. The people who promoting MMT, well, first of all, Stephanie Kelton, that lady that's like a huge proponent of it, she did not see that inflation at all. She said like, oh, it's transitory, blah, blah, blah. It's just light. It's not. No, no, no. It actually stuck around, and it went much. You can like look up quotes what she said. Actually, it was much higher than she anticipated, right? And then like, oh yeah, yeah, we predicted it. That proves us right. It's like I would have thought it was just government just completely printing currency out of thin air. Yeah, you're going to cause inflation, but like, no, 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 you didn't do the inflation. You didn't do MMT correctly. Basically, what we just had during COVID was basically MMT. Oh, we didn't do it correctly because you didn't funnel the resources into the proper channels. But like, trust me. If we were in charge, like the experts or whatever, like everybody was smooth sailing, no inflation at all. It just, yeah, standards of living for the poor people. Everybody would, yeah, is like believe that, which is pretty absurd. Another thing that's like super annoying about like MMT in general is the amount of gaslighting they do. Because if you ever disagree with them, or just basically they would try to revert back to like, what are you arguing with? We're just describing how the monetary system works, right? We're just like numbers here, right? Like this is just like technical jargon or technical. This is the plumbing of the system, right? Like if you don't like it, that's not our fault. This is just the reality. which is not it at all, because they're not just describing how the monetary system works. Because if they were just describing how the system works, nobody would care what they, like what they write some technical book about like fiat currency, or how like what steps the U.S. government takes to print, to create bonds and whatever. Like nobody would care about that stuff. The people care about it is because they have political prescriptions, that what would stem from that, right? So like if they asked AOC like, well, how are you going to pay for this Green New Deal? She's like, hey, have you heard of MMT? Well, that's why, because they have these policy proposals, because like they illustrate the system to where like, oh, we have so much slack. The government, like, you guys are too concerned about like deficits and borrowing and tax, whatever. No. You issue debt in your own currency. You have so much slack. We have so much room to just print a bunch of money. And then conversely, they could just said, instead, it's like technically MMT could be, well, we don't need to collect taxes. Let's not do all these social programs. We print the money. The U.S. government prints the money. So why does it need to collect your taxes? So everybody just, do your business or whatever. We're not going to tax anybody. Of course, that's not what they advocate at all. So of course they're going to advocate some big government thing to create all these programs. So yeah, man, I don't know. To me, it's like, it's the future of progressivism, and we're going to be debating MMT from today till infinity.